Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about the One Piece card game. Today I am going to be doing my extremely overpriced deck profile for Rebecca. So those of you who've been following the channel for a while know that I am a certified black enthusiast. I really like the colour, and I've been max rarity every set since it came out. And this is the set that bankrupted me in that mission because, of course, black got a manga rare. So I'm going to be doing my deck profile for Rebecca. I think this is one of the best decks in the game. I think it's absolutely insanely good, but I also think it's a deck that really does require practice and doesn't really play like any other deck in the game. And I'm not going to profess to be the best Rebecca player in the world, but I'd say I'm pretty decent. And I think there's a lot of very awkward things you got to learn when you're playing the deck. There's a lot of a learning curve. As I say, it doesn't play like anything else. And if you don't like control decks, if you're not comfortable like in the long game, and you're probably not really going to like the deck, but I think everyone should play it because it forces you to think 2 turns ahead, which I think other decks don't really force you to do as much. Like, you genuinely cannot even win a single game with this deck if you're not thinking at least 1 turn ahead, usually 2, because everything is delayed, right? You don't have your leader effect, and as a result, you really are forced to sort of think that way. So I think it's a very good deck to learn for that reason. Also, it feels really good because it's basically the most consistent deck in the game, which is always a nice bonus. So let's go ahead and get into it. So, of course, the Rebecca leader, I'm sure you all know what it does, but if you don't, it says draw 2 each turn. So let's go ahead and begin with the top end, I think, because it's really obvious. It's 4 copies of 7-drop Luffy. This is just an absolutely ridiculous card. It was not necessary for black to get access to this. I will say, like, this deck would really not be playable without it, so obviously I'm saying that, but this is generically useful. You don't have to be playing Rebecca to use this card, but in Rebecca it really does shine because you can search it incredibly easily, and it sort of lets your deck, like, really be the control grindy deck that it is. A lot of things that will happen, usually when you play this card, you're either playing it on curve and not really doing anything with it, because you're going to use it on the next turn, or you're slamming it down and using it to just board clear with either 10k or 13k swings, depending on if you've got a King Kong gun. This is like the #1 target for removal in the game. If you're against yellow, this is not sticking. If you're against basically anything is going to be like, the second that Luffy comes down, I need to deal with it. This is in the mirror match, this is the card you save your removal for. So that's the sort of vibe this card has. It is incredibly good, and it's an insane finisher because late game you just go, yep, cool, 17-17 GG. So it's really good at closing out games, which is exactly what this sort of deck needed. So obviously we need 4 copies of it. I just would not play this deck without 4. 4 copies of the card that bankrupted me. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the 4 Manga Sabos, of course. No half measures here. Yeah, I will say, the Copium, this card really does look really good. It looks really good in person. Does it look good enough to, you know, basically blow the amount of money you could buy a case for on? No, probably not, but I have no regrets, because this is, I think, not going to leave black anytime soon. I was talking to some friends about this, and basically, what I've noticed is, if a card has a 5-6 stat line and a good effect, it's probably going to see play. You know, you look at some of the best cards in the game, and they're 5-6s. Sabo is no exception. This card is all sorts of cracked. It's a 1k counter, it's 6k, it's a blocker, it filters, it gives you full removal protection. I mean, this card does everything you would want it to do. The worst part about the card is that it's not necessarily the best play on curve, but, like, who cares? Literally, like, such a minor complaint. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And we got 4 copies of Orlumbus. This card is, I was really wrong about it, because I read it and you get caught up in the fact you have to destroy your own thing, and until you've actually played the deck and you understand that, no, that's actually quite a good thing, because it's filling your drop, to the point where you'll use Orlumbus even if there's no target, you don't really understand the value of the card. Yes, of course, doing the -4 cost to let you remove top end stuff is incredibly valuable, and that, like, we probably wouldn't play the card if it didn't have that, but it's gives you this sort of consistency that you wouldn't otherwise get in being able to use your drop zone reliant effects, and it's just phenomenally powerful, and it's insanely threatening as well. In a format with not that much removal, this is the kind of card where some decks just won't be able to deal with it, and it's nuts for that reason. It just gives you a lot of extra reach into a lot of your effects. For example, with Kyros. So here is Kiros. This card is unbelievable. This card is absolutely unbelievable. It's a 3/5 that basically will never die. And on play, you get to pop a 1 or less and mill 1. So into everything red, this is unreal. Because Olympus plus this means you're removing everything 5 cost or lower, which is almost the entire red format. This card is so good. It is really difficult to like overstate just how important like having something like this is. This removal tool in combination with Olympus, but in early game on curve, you just pop whatever your opponent's searches are. They're not getting, you know, they don't get to maintain the body. And if they found something bad off the searcher, sometimes that can really be a sort of situation where they're like, oh well, that was a waste. Yeah, this card is nuts. 4 copies of, we'll do the 2Ks, 4 Barto, and 2 Tashigi. Barto is one of the best 2K counters in the game. It's a blocker and a 2K, so it just does everything you would possibly want defense-wise, and it's searchable. Tashigi, I play Tashigi because in some situations, if you don't have an Olympus, or if you don't have 15 in drop, having that extra 2 does give you extra reach, and it is a pseudo blocker because when you tap it, right, like this is a 4K body, your opponent's going to slap a Don on it and clear it, because why wouldn't they? But in that sense, it's actually sort of like sucked up a Don and acted as a blocker, so it's actually gotten you quite a lot of value, because if they don't remove it, then all your cards have extra reach, so it does make sense for them to do so, which ends up making the card very, very good. So that's just some considerations. It is a very, very powerful card. There is an argument for playing 4 copies of it. I just don't know what you would cut. I'm sure like there are personal preference elements of this list, and we'll get to them. This is one of the personal preference elements, so we're going to put it to the side because the rest of this just cannot change. Arguably, you could play 3 Sabo, very arguably, but that's the only like thing in this core. 4 Ideo, this is pretty non-negotiable as well. You need the name, you need the blocker in this format. Yep, it's just good. 4 2K counter, Gats, non-negotiable, you have to play it, and it's searchable. Let's sort of pack up some of these now. So I'll keep the sort of negotiable pieces to the side so we can have a discussion about them later, about what you might replace them with. Put those there. So, as I say, 2 Tashigi, then we got 4 Leo. This card, it is not that great. Usually what you'll actually end up playing it for is to just fuel your drop. Like, you'll just slap it down and it will just, like, suck up some cards. Sorry, I just realised this is, let's see if I can do that a little bit. It'll just suck up some cards, like, you'll mill 2 off it, and that's usually what you use it for. But in certain matchups, it really does pull its weight. But usually the matchups are winning anyway, so it is a little bit of a win more card, but we don't really have much better options, so, yeah. And you need a high quantity of names, and it's not like it's bad, it's just like not necessarily that good. Obviously 4 copies of Rebecca. Why doesn't this have an alt art? Someone explain it to me. Someone please, before I commit a war crime. So yeah, I mean, this is just mandatory. And that's the character cards. So I think, you know, basically the only negotiable part of this character card like lineup is the 2 Tashigi. That's the only thing that you can possibly change. Moving into the events, Triple King Kongan. This card is nuts. There is a very compelling argument not to play it, but then you can't beat Nami. You just straight up can't. And you probably lose any sort of ability to beat just blue in general. And with blue being good, that's something I would like to maintain. So this is kind of non-negotiable. You could drop it to 2. I can see an argument for it being 2. I think 4 is too many, but 3 is just right in my opinion. So I don't really see that changing. Okay, here's the real, genuine flex spot. This is the one flex spot in the deck that you can change and no one will have anything to say. 3,000 Wells. This card is insane. I don't play Red Rock, and there's a really compelling argument to swap these into Red Rock, like 2 of these into Red Rock and 1 of these into Trueno Bastardo. So I'll talk about these all together. So 2 Trueno Bastardo. So I've been agonizing over this, and there's just no right answer. You just have to sort of make a call and hope that the meta you play into meets that call. So the biggest problem this deck has is yellow and blue. Blue is almost unwinnable. You just have to turn cards sideways and kind of hope for the best and hope your opponent, like, is, because they're more inconsistent than you, they don't sort of see the bits, and you hope they lose to their matchups. You kind of have to just pray when you're into blue croc. But against yellow, that is your other worst matchup. And you need to see Trueno Bastardo plus Olympus. Where is he? Plus Olympus. Or you need to see 7 cost Luffy on curve. And as long as you see one of those before your opponent slams down the 10 cost Big Mom, you're fine. That matchup becomes winnable. If you don't see that, then you're in an issue. Now, so why do I only play 2? Well, as I say, you know, you are basically drawing 2 every single turn, except it's look at the top 2 and add 1 for the second one. So the odds of you having this in the matchups where you need it, it's almost guaranteed by that point in the game. I mean, you are literally doing it every single turn. You're doing everything you can to make sure that happens. So it's overwhelmingly likely that you are going to have this. But you can play red rocks for contingency. Because red rock, you don't have to worry about a combo. Your opponent goes 10 cost big one. You go, yep, cool, red rock. Done. And obviously that's very compelling. Problems with red rock. It plays very awkwardly into the curve of the deck. Because if you play 3000 worlds, I can go 3000 worlds, Sabo, leader effect, right? That's a really good turn. I'm doing a lot of filtering there. I'm doing removal. I'm plussing. Like, that's a very good turn. Whereas with red rock, I go, cool, red rock, and then, I don't know, or Lumbus Pass, Kyros leader effect. Not bad, but not as good. So that's just one of the things. This is also just way better into everything that is not, like, exclusively yellow. Blue does play 10 cost Kaido, and obviously being able to just bot deck a 10 cost Kaido is nice. But, like, otherwise, or Lumbus plus this is removing everything else. And being able to just bot deck 5 costs is really, really good, especially in the mirror match, right? If you're worried about the mirror match, this gets around the Sabo. Just bot decking a Sabo is so crazy strong, like, in the mirror, that it's something that you just got to be aware of. And I think there is no right choice, as I say. At the moment, I'm on 3 and 2 of this. That's because I'm expecting a lot of red in the meta. I think red, particularly Law, just absolutely cooks Katakuri. There's nothing that it can really do. And I think there's Law is very, very popular. It's very, very strong. I would play it over Katakuri because, you know, with Law, at least with the mirrors, it's a 50-50. But Katakuri into Law, it's just unwinnable. And you're going to play more Laws than you're going to play Katakuris, in my opinion, just because it's a very popular deck. So for that reason, I would rather be able to just go, yep, cool, bot deck your Law, than, like, Red Rocket, which just feels really awful. Like, having 2 extra Don to be able to do more on the turn just feels better. Being able to do it earlier as well. If my opponent just does it, like, turn 2, being able to on my turn 3 go, yep, cool, bot deck that. There's your plussing engine, and that can feel quite bad for them. But as I say, there really is no right answer here. It is just a medical. For all of these events, I think it is just a medical. And then, lastly, for the events, I play 1 barrier. This is just a nice one-off. Basically, you can stack it back at the bottom of your deck with Luffy, so you can always have it late game, and you get to get the value out of it, which is quite nice, actually, because it's very dead until then. And it's possible you can loop it, if depending on how you structure it, but you do have to really be very, very careful when you're trying to do that, so, you know, it's a bit too big brain for me to be looping it, but definitely just stacking it and making sure you get it, very, very easy. And it's quite a nice trigger. It's going to fill the drop really, really well, because, like, that is putting 2 cards in drop and giving your hand, like, higher quality, which is really, really good. It's the same with King Kong Gun. So they're very nice triggers to have. And then obviously last is 3 Colosseum. Argument to play 4 is consistency, especially for the mirror match. Detriment is you are so consistent and you can hard mulligan for it. It's probably going to be fine. I think, again, there's a lot of personal preference. So, like, what I'll say is, in terms of genuine flex spots, right, where you would, like, not be actively hampering your chances, I would say they are these. Those are staple, those are staple. I think this is staple. I don't think you changed this. I think it's just a one-off. I just think you got to play at least 2 to not lose to blue. So this is you got to play at least 2 of this. And then this is flex. So you've got maybe 7 cards that are flexible, and these can be changed for various different things. You could put in 4 2K counters, and then have some little different bits of removal. For example, you could put in some of the cards obviously I've taken out here, leave them in, and then change other stuff. But this is sort of the flexible area. But there we go. That is the deck profile. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, like it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If I'm sure people are curious, because I've seen it commented multiple times when I post this on social media. The Sabos cost me about $1,000 for all of them, so in total I think I probably spent about 12 or 1300 on this deck. Is it worth it? No, obviously not. There's no possible way this could ever be worth that amount of money. But you know what? Makes me happy, and I will clarify that I'm not hurting for money. So it's not something that I'm, you know, prioritizing over, you know, paying rent, eating, right? And if that's you, go for it. If you want a max rarity, have fun, man. Ultimately, like, you want to be having fun when you're playing these games, and if it makes you happy to look at the shiny cardboard, then do that. But that's it. Enough philosophy. Subscribe to the channel for more really dumb shit like this, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Cheers.